Good morning. I'm Ryan Abbott from Emmanuel Lighthouse, and I'm here to give you your weekly devotion. Injustice in this world is a difficult pill for anyone to swallow. As we grow up, we come to understand the simple reality that sometimes good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. For many, it's difficult to watch when wicked people get rewarded, and it's also difficult to spectate while good people go through challenging moments. The Bible talks about this in Ecclesiastes 9 and 11. It says, I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all. This verse tells us that in the real world, challenges don't come to people who are prepared for those challenges. The race doesn't come to the swift. The people who are fast and ready to run often don't get that opportunity. The battle doesn't come to the strong. Someone who is ready to fight won't necessarily have to. It's telling us that we won't always be prepared for what we have to face. As it says, time and chance happen to us all. Because we see this injustice in the world, we sometimes project that on God. We've all experienced injustice in our lives, of course. For example, I'm still in school, and I've seen bad habits get rewarded. I've seen cheaters who are never caught. I've seen liars get away with lying, and sometimes they're even celebrated. Life isn't always fair, but God is in control. As we grow in God, we arrive at the knowledge that God's way is just. This means He ultimately gives out fitting rewards and punishments. Even when we encounter instances of suffering, we understand that God has a purpose for our experiences. He will support us in overcoming life's challenges. We can trust God with our suffering. He'll bring meaning even in our most difficult moments. One man who faced injustice is Job. Satan came to God one day, and God was essentially breaking up Job to Satan, saying how righteous Job is. Satan had a theory that if God removed his protection and blessings from Job, that Job will turn from God. Thus, in the first chapter of Job, Job went from being an immensely blessed man with a strong family to being a broken man in agony. Job had 7 sons and 3 daughters. His family was perfect, no problems at all. The siblings would have these grandiose get-togethers in their homes. No strife, no arguments over politics or sports, just one big happy family. But then in Job 1 and 19, a great wind, an unexpected, unforecasted cataclysm of nature, hit the home of Job's eldest son while the siblings were together enjoying their time. And the result was tragic. All of Job's children were lost, all at once. Job 1 and 19 says, And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they were dead. And only I am escaped alone to tell thee. So this person that was telling Job this was a messenger, a servant, that was the only person to survive this terrible disaster. And Job was left alone in the aftermath. Then, in addition to losing his children, Job also lost most of his possessions. In the world in which Job lived, prior to this loss, Job would have been one of the most successful men of the entire world. The Bible described him as the greatest man of all the East. His livestock had been numbered in the thousands, but they were stolen away by invaders. In the raid, Job's servants were also killed. Job's estate was in shambles. His business was unsustainable now. The success that had come to define him as the greatest of all men of the East was now null and void. Job had become a failure, even if it wasn't really his fault. In the second chapter of Job, God permitted Satan to go even further to test Job's faith. In Job 2 and 5, Satan requested to afflict Job's body, to attack his health. And then God allowed Satan to do so, but not to the extent that Job's life would be lost. Job 2, 4 through 6 says, And Satan answered the Lord, and said, Skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath he will give for his life. But put forth thine hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. When Job was struck with sickness, he lost the one thing he had left in life, health. Sometimes in life, difficult moments compound. One difficulty is complicated by another. Sometimes difficult seasons get more and more difficult, and as in Job's situation, there's nothing we can do to prevent it. Job's wife dared him to curse God and just accept his death, but Job understood that blaming God was not an option. Job remained faithful in his moment of trial. Job also felt forsaken, but the story of Job can be summarized in this. Job used his knowledge of God to combat his feelings about his situation. Now, Job did stumble and question God's ways, but he didn't ever reject God completely. As we grow, maturing in faith means our knowledge of God comes to inform our feelings. In other words, when we feel forsaken, just like Job, we need to know that we aren't. Not seeing answers to our prayers can sometimes be frustrating. However, that doesn't mean that God has left us. Just because God doesn't give us the answers to our situation immediately doesn't mean that we're facing this situation alone. In the 42 chapters of the book of Job, we watch Job's life spiraling out of control while we read his prayers. Job didn't understand it. His friends didn't understand it. They questioned whether Job was actually a good man and blamed him for his suffering. But by the end of the book, God answered. When all was said and done, God did respond to Job's prayers, and in a big way. Job 42:10 says, "And the Lord turned the captivity of Job, who when he had prayed for his friends, also the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before." Job certainly felt alone in the middle of this trial. His family died. His wife and friends were nothing but rude to him and gave him poor advice, and even God wasn't answering his prayers during this time. But thankfully, he wasn't alone. Time and chance might have been hitting him pretty hard here, but God was still watching over him. Job might have been in the midst of the worst time of his life, but he wasn't alone. He still had his protector, even if he didn't feel like it. And of course, the same applies to us. As the Bible says, time and chance happen to us all, and we will have good days and bad days. Even if you feel alone during the bad days, as long as you believe in God and trust his ways, God will reward you for your faith. It might not be a doubling of everything you own like Job got, but there will be a reward. So have comfort even in the tough times. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.